following is a presentation of the Missouri Sports Network.
Hey, welcome to Missouri Sports Network at MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. Certainly glad that you've tuned in here, presented by Central Bank of the Ozarks, Great Southern Bank, Chevy Dealers of the Ozarks, the Bank of Billings, Doak Propane, Laborers Local 663, and Country Financial. Certainly glad you've tuned in. Special show here for you today. Alongside, we've got Hall of Fame coaches Scott Womack and Jay Osborne, and we welcome to the Missouri Sports Network a special guest host, Scott Puryear. Gentlemen, I know you're all in different locations, but thanks for being on today.
Appreciate it. Yeah, this should be fun.
As you look at, I kind of set this up, Coach Womack and Coach Osborne's careers have kind of mirrored one another time-wise, and both of them had just tremendous seasons this year. And I went back, talking about that kind of the similarities. I went back over the last 10 years in these two guys' coaching careers. Coach Osborne's 228 and 61. Over that same span, Coach Womack is 224 and 64, and it doesn't get any closer than that. But Scott Puryear, you've been as close to these two gentlemen from the beginning as anyone maybe in Southwest Missouri.
Yeah, and it's a good thing they didn't play each other because nobody would have won. It'd been a tie, with records like that. So, no, I for those who don't know, I was the sports writer at the News Leader from 1985 to 2005, and of course, my first 10 years or so were predominantly almost all on high school sports. So, went to college with Scott Womack. I was responsible for waking him up and getting him to class most days so he could graduate and go on to be a coach. Otherwise, he might be working in the McDonald's in West Plains right now if I hadn't done my job back then. And of course, Jay actually called me from somewhere in the middle of Kansas, I think, asking about the Pleasant Hope job at one point. And, he took that and from there, the rest was history. So I've got a long history of both guys. And if you see, I'm in a hotel in Kansas City doing this call. I chose this background because it's 4-leaf clovers and nobody could be luckier to interview these two guys than me right now. How cheesy was that?
Well, all true. True.
Yeah. So I mean, and Guy, it's been out, but Jay, this was your retirement season. I mean, you announced in November you were getting out, and after 30 years at Nixa and a Hall of Fame career, and of course, came one game short, finished second in the Class 6 state championships last weekend to one of those darn private schools, CBC. Has it hit you now that you don't have any more practices to go to as of right now? And is there any kind of a hangover from that weekend, that game?
No, I've got my energy back. And no, I mean, it's not the way we wanted to end, but I was pretty proud of our team and pretty proud of their effort. And we just ran into a better team on Friday. But no, it hasn't sunk in yet. And, the other day I woke up thinking, okay, I got to do this and this for practice. And it dawned on me, we don't have practice. So I think that was on Sunday or Monday. But no, it hasn't soaked in yet, but it's a good feeling. It's my time at Nixa is over and feel good about what we've done with our program over 30 years and pretty proud of everything. And so, no, it'll sink in the next few months. But congratulations to Scott on his state title. He's a legendary coach and does such a great job. I've watched his teams play multiple times, but glad to be here and glad to be able to talk to you guys.
Well, and of course, Scott's one of your friends now because he won one for the public schools with a state championship game at Whitfield, correct, in the Class 4 state championship?
Yeah, this second year in a row we had to play them. Last year we played them and kind of played them even for about 3 quarters. In the fourth quarter they took over, and it was kind of just the opposite this year. Of course, we jumped out on them early, but came back, and it was a 2-point game going in the fourth quarter, and then we was able to kind of pull away in the fourth quarter. But I've known Jay for a lot of years and really have picked his brain the last few years about retirement because he knows everything, how to make money and how to do that. And so I've been trying to figure out the best way and when the right time is. And but he's just been a great coach to watch over the years. And, we played Nixa girls a lot, but always get to see him play and enjoy watching him play, whether it's the Tournament of Champions or in the state tournament or whenever.
Of course, the elephant in the Zoom room right now is whether you're coming back or not. You haven't made that decision yet, correct?
Yeah, I'm just kind of, everything's been going so fast, and you're kind of on adrenaline, and Jay probably knows this, for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And Sunday, I just was comatose, basically. You just all that adrenaline's gone, and so we came in Monday, and everything. Everybody's wanting to celebrate everything, and we've been, whether it's an interview or going over to our elementary and middle schools and with the kids. I'm gonna, in the next week, kind of sit down after all this is over and decide where I'm gonna go from here. And I've said it for the last 2 or 3 years. I'm just going 1 year at a time, and I really like these girls, but there's a point where you've got to retire in terms of just you're losing money. And but I still enjoy the coaching part of it. So I just it's a tough decision right now, and it might have been easier if I'd have done it like Jay did, and say it before the year starts, and then just go from there, and it's over. But if I decide that this is it, good way to go out. My wife said the other day, said you can go nowhere but down right now. So you went out on top, and not many get to do that. So it's a struggle right now.
And I think, honestly, the smartest thing you did, Scotty, in your career at West Plains was back in sometime in the 90s, convince those guys to have really good daughters someday that could come play for you, right?
Yeah.
That worked out pretty well, didn't it?
Yeah, it was nice that Eric had a girl, and it's I've been blessed here with a lot of good players, going back into the 90s with Corinza Barr and them, but just some really good players. And now I'm coaching players of that are daughters of players I coached before. So it makes you be old, but I've just had a lot of good girls come through here that have bought into the system and played hard for me.
Guy, we have a guest.
Yeah, we've got a couple of guests to that end. We welcome in, and you may, Coach, may recognize these two young ladies, but on the left of your screen there is the aforementioned Corinza Barr Cassis, and over on the right, a former assistant coach, now gotten into the banking world, Cass Johnson. But ladies, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and I think if I'm correct, Corinza is now an attorney, so anything we say may be used against us in a court of law later. So we'll keep it kind of clean, Corinza.
Well, I appreciate that. I would never, but never hurts to sign some sort of waiver beforehand, just for next time.
Nice. But great to catch up with both of you again. And Cass, you first. I know you played for Scott, and then you coached or with him for a season as well. And I'm sure you've got some pretty good Coach Womack stories about what makes him great.
Yeah, he has been a great mentor for me throughout these several years. We had a great player-coach relationship, and then he gave me the chance to come back to West Plains and coach underneath him, and just give me a whole new perspective on how to love the game and how to teach the game and things like that. And I honestly can't thank him enough for allowing me to have that opportunity to come back here and just have an additional 2 years with him, because 4 just isn't long enough with some people. So I'm just really thankful for that opportunity, and he's had a great career, and I'm very happy to be a part of that and proud of him this year for what he accomplished. So
what would you say makes him tick? What makes him successful?
Just his just wanting to get better every day, working on the little things. He just is really never satisfied like he is, but we're working on the same things every day. He's always looking to get better, just always bringing in new things. He has the same old things as when we had in high school, but just continuing to learn new things and things like that. So
great. And of course, Cass had a great career at C of O and then came back to West Plains. Corinza, you went from West Plains to an outstanding career at the University of Missouri, now in the attorney field. It sounds like West Plains is kind of like the Hotel California, that you never really ever leave Zizzerland, do you?
That's right.
No.
I mean, yeah, that's right. I was at last 3 games, and my kids, now we live in Kansas City, but my kids are big Zizzer fans. So I always love going back. And of course, my parents keep me updated on what's going on with the Zizzers and how Coach Womack's teams are doing. So it's always great to go back for sure.
Kind of a unique situation for you, because you had a legendary Hall of Fame coach in your own house with your dad, Tom Barr, and then you had Coach Womack. And Scott, you can comment on this too as well, but was there a delicate balance with Carenza in terms of, I know when Payne Stewart played golf at Greenwood, his dad told Paul Mullins, you just drive the bus and get him there, don't mess with his swing. But I assume because of the way things worked out, it was a great 1-2 punch for you, Carenza, with your dad and Coach Womack.
Yeah, I mean, I could let Coach Womack speak to it too. This is his show, but I'll just say that my dad has always been a huge fan of Coach Womack, and even in high school, Coach Womack, what Coach Womack said was always first, and I think that's my dad's a great coach. My dad understands that your players need to listen to their coach, and so that was always his position. We didn't talk a lot, about basketball unless I asked, and then we'd talk about it with my dad. But he always had and still has a lot of respect for Coach Womack. We talk about that a lot, and so there was never really a pull whenever I played as to who to listen to. It was always you listen to Coach Womack. Coach Womack's your coach. For sure.
You had 2 good ones there, yeah. And Scotty, it was a great relationship, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, of course, Tom had a lot to do with Carenza being the player she she became, because he probably started her in kindergarten, playing the game and teaching her the game. But yeah, he was always very supportive and never seemed to interfere with anything. And I'm sure he always had those comments to her after games to what she could get better at. But he was busy also. He had some really good teams at the college, and so he was probably trying to coach them too. But he's always been very supportive of me. And, even now with him giving lessons in the area, it's helping the girls as they become better players as they're in elementary and middle school level. And but like I said, he was always very supportive. And those 2 you got on there, man, they're my favorites. Some of my favorites that I've ever had.
Carenza, you were part of that 1998 state championship team. I'm sure that's always going to be a special memory. And kind of the same question for you that we asked Cass. What is it that makes Coach Womack successful in your mind? Yeah,
I mean, that's a tough question. I could talk for quite some time. And again, I know this isn't my show. This is for Coach Womack and Coach Osborne. But, I just think looking back now, having a couple of decades to kind of, having the benefit of hindsight now, I knew at 18 that I had a good basketball coach. But, now I can tell you that he is truly, one of the best. And, what makes him good is he is, he's even-handed, he's fair. He is obviously very smart. He's also very steady. You always knew he'll get fired up, don't get me wrong, but you always kind of knew what you were going to get from him. And then, just like Cass talked about, he's just so meticulous with his preparation, with the way that he approaches practices and games, stats, equipment, everything. He could probably rattle off both Cass and my, stats, even though it's been now several years for me. So I think, those qualities make him good. But then also he uses those qualities, to really, I think, make great adjustments, not only to, his in-game adjustments they blow me away. Just watching the last couple of weeks, I was just so impressed with that. But then also just how he's kind of adjusted his program over the years, with the way that he implemented that matchup zone. Wish we would have had that, back when I played. But just things like that, his ability to be successful in light of having, I don't know, Coach Womack, you tell us 1 or 2 girls over 6 feet tall over the past 25 years. I mean, to me, that just says that's just incredible to talk about the teams that he's beaten and the teams that he's played with, undersized, undermatched a lot of times. That I think those things are just really impressive. So his in-game adjustments, and then just the way that he has modified his system over the years to really get the most out of his players.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, I go back to the college days with him, and really I take credit for him graduating for the most part. But he comes across as this laid back country boy, even on the sidelines. Cass, start with you. Did you ever really see him get mad at any point as a player or an assistant?
Yes. I was probably the reason why he got mad a lot of the times in high school. Threatened me a couple times to like move me down or something like that, and that got me fired up and going. So but he knows how to make his players better, and he knew like how to challenge his players, and that just made us better players in the end. So I can't thank him enough for that, and pushing me in that way. So
what about you, Corinza?
Yeah, I've been on the receiving end of several screams, and probably well deserved at the time. I wouldn't want to coach myself at 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, and so I can't imagine that it was always easy. But at the same time, you never doubted his intentions. You never doubted that he wanted what was best for us and for the team. And so that was always a lot easier to take whenever you knew that you had, one ultimate goal. And really, I should say, it wasn't just winning. It was, getting the most out of us, for sure.
Well, before we let you go, any little quirks about Coach Womack that you guys feel safe now about sharing, now that there's no threat to put you on the bench or anything like that, that you can recall from your days with him?
I don't have yeah, I'm still mad that he made me practice track every day as the head track coach.
Nobody loves track, do they?
But she was all state.
I had to have to practice, which I don't know what coach makes you do that, but those were never very fun. Awesome. But I couldn't leave this call without just saying everything that he's meant to the West Plains community. Yeah.
And of course, Cass, you're in the banking world down there now. I mean, all that money he's accumulated heading into retirement, you probably can help him with that, can't you? And if he gets in any kind of trouble, he's got Corinza. So, Coach Womack, you're set both ways.
Yeah, you got to look out for those people that can help you in the future.
That's right. Yeah. Well, ladies, it was a pleasure to watch both of you play, and echoing what Guy said, we're just excited to have you both jump in here on this webcast and congratulate Coach Womack on a great career. We don't know if it's over yet or not. Apparently, he's going to have a press conference and put a bunch of hats out on a table, and one will be retirement, one will be probably Missouri State Lady Bears, and what else. But you guys, thanks for jumping on, and best wishes to you in your careers.
Thank you, guys, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
great.
Good to see you, girls. Love you, girls.
Yep, you too.
Love
Bye.
you too. Bye.
Two of the all-time greats there, Guy. I tell you, Corinza Barr, boy, she was something in the '90s, and then at Mizzou as well. And of course, Cass. I don't know. You've had very many people that played any harder than Cass did, Scott. Right?
Right. I mean, she was a great shooter for us, and great 4-year career. And it's really very rewarding. I think I've had 4 of my former players come back and be coaches, assistant coaches for me, and that's really a rewarding for you to have them come on your bench and they see the other side of it. But you feel like that maybe you've done something to influence them, to steer them in that direction, and those were 2 good ones right there.
Well, and speaking of former players, I know one of the highlights for me, I see a lot of Nixa games now with 2 kids in school there, and on Jay's kind of swan song night for a home game, a bunch of his Pleasant Hope guys were in the stands there for that last night, dating back to what, Jay, 30 years or 35 years or so?
Yeah, I coached them from 90 to 92. It was an awesome group. And I see someone on the screen here who was absolutely awesome to coach as well.
Absolutely. Is that Nate?
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the webcast, Nate Thomas, the former Nixa basketball standout, football standout, whatever standout back in the late 90s on the state championship team then. And of course, now somehow Nix has allowed him to be the head football coach at Kickapoo High School, which it really is a sin in Nixa, but I think they've let it pass, haven't they, Nate?
They have. I don't know if I've still got Coach Osborne's approval, but yeah, brown and gold did not go over well in my time there with him. So we were not big fans.
Well, Jay's been a big Kickapoo fan for years, so I'm sure he's okay with it now. But Nate,
If it's yellow and brown, you must flush it down.
Guy, you might edit that part for safety reasons.
That's fine.
But Nate, kind of like with Carenza and Cass on Coach Womack, what are your recollections of playing with Jay back in the 90s?
Just showing up to practice every day and feeling like we were very, very prepared for what we were going to see that week. Jay, and I still don't know how he does it, just because, I have a week to get ready for what I'm going to see on Friday nights. And we would walk in day before, 2 days before we would play people, and he would have handouts with what guys were good at, what they struggled with. We were always very well prepared. And I think the thing that sticks out to me the most was, like, I don't know about the other guys, but I look forward to practice with Jay just because they were knockdown, drag out wars at practice. He did a good job of splitting, me and Zach up, and we would beat the fire out of each other every day. You hear people say it kind of all the time that practice was harder than games. I felt like that week in and week out, that we had guys on our team that bought into it. He'd brought some freshmen up that he had done kind of with Zach and I, and he had a lot of success with those guys 3 years down the road because of kind of the way he conducted practice, how hard he got his good players to play for him.
Coach Womack mentioned his former players who went on to either be head coaches themselves or come back to work with him, or both. You took a different path. You went into coaching, but in a different sport. And how much of what you learned from Jay in basketball helped you get going in your coaching career at Kickapoo and other places?
First of all, Coach Womack, congratulations. I really hope you retire so I don't have to face any more of your spread, empty single wing stuff that keeps me up at night. So if it takes a $50 gift card to Jim's Steakhouse, whatever Kickapoo needs to do to get you to ride off into the sunset, that would be awesome.
I might take you up on that.
Yeah. I got off track. Scott, what was the question?
Yeah, what have you learned? It's a different sport, but maybe from Coach Osborne that you apply in your coaching world now.
Just the preparation part of it. That was a huge part of it. The relationships that he built with all of us. I knew Jay cared about us off the basketball court. I don't think he missed a football game when I was playing. I just felt like I had great support from him. And he truly wanted to see us succeed. And it didn't matter, basketball, track, football. When we got out of here, he still keeps in contact with all of us. I get 2 or 3 texts a month from him usually. So just like I said, the relationships he built with the players, it was a joy to play for him. It was a lot of fun.
Jay, what made that 1999 state championship team special in your mind?
Well, they were just so competitive, and we had a swagger. They had a swagger to them. But practices were good. We had great leadership. Nate was a tremendous leader on and off the court. He was a 3-sport athlete: football, basketball, track, which was important. We try to get all our kids to play multiple sports. I think the single sport concept is false. I don't like it. I don't want it, but it's kind of where we're heading our society. But Nate did it all. But his leadership, him and Zach's leadership, there was issues during our seasons there that, like at halftime, before I entered the halftime locker room, we always met with the coaching staff out of the locker room. Well, a lot of times some of the problems we had to have corrected were already corrected before I got to the locker room. Nate and Zach just took matters in their own hands and got things corrected. things at practice weren't going well. They got it corrected. I didn't really have to do anything. So the leadership was just tremendous. And there's no doubt in my mind, that Nate's a tremendous leader and tremendous coach. I've watched his football teams play past few years, and just impressed with what he's doing with that group. And they were just so much fun to coach. And I'm more laid back than I was back then. I'd get pretty fiery during the games, and they could take a chewing and respond and get things corrected on their own. That's probably the biggest thing I remember, is that just competitiveness and the leadership. The leadership is just something you just can't replace.
Well, and at a school the size of Nick's, sometimes it's not always met with a lot of applause when you play two freshmen on a varsity team. Some parents of upperclassmen, don't like it, and those freshmen better be able to play. What did you see in Nate and Zach that allowed them to just step on the floor and be leaders for you, really, for 4 years?
Well, I've always had a philosophy from day one. Best players play. I don't care how old they are. If they're a freshman, sophomore, it doesn't matter. Best players play. And I think Nate and Zach as freshmen, I think we went down to Ava and played a game. I think Zach had 24 points and 12 assists. I think Nate had 25 points and 6 assists and 9 rebounds. So, and they just totally dominated the JV game. And I looked over at Cub Martin and my assistant, and he goes, "I've lost them, haven't I?" I said, "Yep, they're not yours anymore." So I think they played one game and they came up with us. And, we struggled a little bit that first year, but we grew out of that. And, 3 years later, we win a state title with them. So best players play. I mean, it's no secret. It's pretty simple. I don't care how old you are. And it was that way today. And with the way I coached this year and last year, and it's whoever our best players are going to play.
Probably a good time to ask this, because we do have Nate on with us now as a head football coach himself at Kickapoo, and Scotty, you can chime in on this as well. You hear this all the time. Kids are different today. Are they? Any of you?
I think parents are different.
Yeah.
I agree. Go ahead, Scott.
No, I agree with that's exactly what I was going to say. Parents have changed. Kids haven't changed. In what way?
Well, they just for the most part, I think overall, not always, not in all cases, but they're wanting to be their friend instead of their parent, instead of their disciplinarian and teach them right from wrong. They want to be friends with them, and I see that more and more and more, not just in basketball, but in other sports, and also just in students in general. So I think parents have changed a lot, not the kids.
And is that a both genders thing, Scott? I mean, are girls different now, or are girls' parents different on your side of the ball?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of what Jay said is correct. Another thing I see, especially once we went at the Ozark Conference and we're traveling more, is parents don't want their kid to be a bench player. If they're not a starter, why are you playing? Why are you putting in the time? And, then you have these parents that can't afford maybe the lessons or the summer travel and all of that. And so that kid gets left behind a little bit, and they're just not willing to drive 2 hours to a game, don't want them getting in at 11 o'clock at night. And so used to, and I say this, in my 98 team and this year's team, one of the players that made the biggest difference for us was my sixth man. But a lot of times parents don't want their kid to be that sixth man anymore. If they're not a starter, don't put in the time.
What about you, Nate, with football?
I agree with both of them. I think part of it is the expectations for kids change these days. The accountability piece is another big part of it, that they don't like being held accountable at times, and it ruffles feathers. And when I got here, it kind of created some issues. There were some guys that weren't part of our program for very long because they got held accountable and they weren't real sure why that was the case. So I agree 100% with both of them. And then just that accountability piece of it's hard. It's getting harder and harder to coach kids hard. Have kids that are able to take some chewing, some criticism, and be able to respond to it.
And I know, Nate, you don't have to deal with this, but for Scott and Jay, in the last several years, the prominence of summer basketball, travel teams, things like that. I know early on it was pretty disruptive in a lot of places between the balance between who's got the control here, who's the source that people go to. Is that kind of leveling out now, and are we seeing a nice, better balance between AAU and high school programs?
Well, we honestly haven't really had to deal with much of that. We pretty much do our off season or game wise in the summers in June. Our kids will play in April and May, and then they're with us in June, and then they'll travel again in July and August. So it really hadn't been that big of an issue. I think our kids, at least at our place, have been really good about being with us in June and doing their other stuff outside that. So it hadn't been a problem for us. It's actually been pretty smooth.
Yeah, same with us. We do everything in June. I do nothing in July and like I said, if they're going to play AU, it's usually in April and May, and then they hit the circuit again in July. And I really can't think of a player I've ever had that's missed any of my summertime stuff to go play, AAU. And I really also think that the college coaches have helped. I don't know how Jay was, but, Ashton was recruited very heavily this last year. And I think every one of the coaches basically that were recruiting her, I'm sure they went through AAU coach, but they always contacted me. They always kept me up to date, and I always talked to them quite a bit. And so I think the college coaches kind of came back in the girls' side and is, contacting the high school coach a lot more than they probably did 10 years ago.
One other hot button topic before we start wrapping this up is obviously both of you were involved in it in the last week with the private versus public championship games. And, I watched the Kickapoo girls play an Incarnate Word team that might as well have been a WNBA team, from St. Louis. And Scotty, you came out on top over a private team, and Jay, you fell to a private team. In both your opinions, should there be separate divisions for public and private at some point in Michigan and Missouri?
Go ahead, Scott.
Well, when you lose like we did last year, yep, you want that, And I know my son played golf for many years, and they were the best public school maybe in the state of Missouri in their class, and the private schools dominated. I don't think the state's ever going to go to that. I just don't see it happening. Of course, I always say, well, why don't we go to 4 public school, classifications and 2 private, and go to a large and small private. But anytime you lose to them, that's what you want. And it's frustrating for your kids to see that, to see those good teams that they recruit. But I don't know if the state will ever go to it. I don't. Every time I've ever mentioned it to him, it's kind of a sore subject and don't even mention it. But, somewhere down the line, it may have to happen.
Okay.
Nate, who did we beat in 99 to win the state title?
St. Francis Borgia.
Very good.
So, 26.
Yeah. So when we beat the private school, I had no issues with it. Now we lose to them, the only thing is that my concern is that I've got friends back home and in Kansas and Kansas City, family members in Illinois. They want to know how Christian Brothers College can play in a high school tournament. I said, well, they're not really college. They are high school kids. But, it just sounds like we're, sour grapes if I'm complaining about losing to them. And I'm not. It's been a hot button topic for a long, long time. Scott knows this, and both of you Scotts do. And I don't think there's a wrong or right answer. The only thing I see out of it is that the state has put the multiplier on the private schools, which bumps them up a class. And then they get the factor in if they've been to a Final Four or whatever, state finals, they bump them up. So instead of, Springfield Catholic or CBC playing class 4 or 5 or 3, now they're playing class 6. So really what it's done is just bumped them up into higher class, which a few years ago wasn't our problem, and now it is. So no sour grapes here. They were a better team than we were. And I'll give them credit. They just beat us. So we were there middle of the third quarter, and then we had a chance, and then they just got away from us. But if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. And CBC was the best team in the state this year. And but like I said, 99 we beat Borgia, and nobody complained about having to play a private school then. So.
Well, Nate, appreciate you jumping on as we wrap this up, and Jay and Scott. Just if this is it for you, Scotty, what are you going to remember most about your West Plains time, and have the fondest memories about?
Well, going back to your hometown, it's kind of special. This is where I graduated. I was fortunate enough to be hired down here and never thought I would stay and be a girls basketball coach for 31 years. But the way the community has just rallied around girls basketball, especially because really before I got here, girls basketball was just another sport. They hadn't really won a conference title. They hadn't won a district title. And for us to go to 3 Final Fours, win 2 of them, they've really, rallied around the girls basketball aspect of it. But it's kind of special to be able to coach in your hometown where my parents get to come to the games and family members. And so that's probably the thing. And then just the different relationships you've had with the girls that just like Corinza and Cass coming on again. And they've already texted me since they got off and looking up in the stands the other day and seeing a lot of players, and I know Jay experienced that this year, but a lot of the former players that drove from Kansas City and different places to be at our game, and then to get text and messages from them after the game, it's really special.
Jay, same question for you.
Yeah, just being able to early in the 90s, going through a parent wanting to get me fired to a couple board members wanting to get me fired to be able to win a state title with Nate and these guys. And then just to be able to feel like more of a survivor than anything at Nixa. 30 years there, I think pretty proud of that. I'm just really proud of what we've done with our program and where we've gone, going from Class 3 school all the way to Class 6. And we're leaving it in good hands. Got some good staff members that are taking over. And no, just my time there has been awesome. It's been quite a ride, and to be able to see the former players this year show up and text me and call me and congratulate us on what we're doing, and it's just been a special year and a special season. And I look back on my career there with a lot of fond memories, and thank a lot of people for all their help.
Well, gentlemen, congratulations on great seasons, great careers. Nate, keep it going at Kickapoo there. And Guy, thank you for letting me jump in here with these legendary guys and my longtime friends and kind of moderate here. I appreciate it.
Scott, I'm gonna leave you with this before I go. I got one story on Jay because he always talks about our basketball team and winning a state title. Number one, we walked into practice every day and he would have one or two things on the TV. Jay is a huge Seinfeld fan, so that was either on the TV or it was Austin Powers. Nice. Also a big Austin Powers guy. So
still am.
He talks about how good we were, and we had a flip. I had a switch I could flip when I crossed the white line, but he had to deal with some of us off the basketball court. We caused some problems. We were hard to handle sometimes. I just remember one time after a long trip to Webb City, we stopped at a Hardee's, probably didn't do what we were supposed to do and act the way we were supposed to act on that trip. And we came in the next day. Jay would always have, the big boys had to go do mic and drill. The guards had to go get things done pre-practice. We knew what we were supposed to do. The rack of balls was out, and Zach and I walked out first, and there's no basketballs. And we take a look around, and there's chains on the doors, and there's 4 trash cans on every corner. And I told him, buddy, you better strap it up. I think we're going to have a rough practice today. So the balls did not come out that practice.
I think he exaggerated a little bit, but I don't think we locked him in. But no, I think Cub and I had to clean up the eating area at an establishment one night, and we weren't all happy about that. So
Well, guys, this was fun and appreciate it, and all you guys, best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Congrats, guys.
Yep. Thanks, Nate.
Hey, gentlemen, thank you so much for being part of the Missouri Sports Network. I had a ball sitting and listening to all. I've always said the less I talk, the better, and this was a great experience. And Scott Puryear, thanks for I reached out to him earlier this week and just said, hey, you think this might be a good idea? And he's like, yeah. He goes, I'd love to grill those bozos. So I think that was the email I got. But no, it's been a great pleasure, and I've enjoyed it. And I hope everybody listening has enjoyed it as much as I have.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
You
Yeah.
bet.
Guys, we'll talk to you soon. Hey, you're listening to and watching the Missouri Sports Network at MissouriSportsNetwork.com. Keep it right here. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds you, be safe, be smart, and be here tomorrow.